Cool. Welcome back to the day two of the Delight Virtual Summit. Yesterday was great, and today is going to get even better with more webinars, commentaries, the grand quiz, and the announcement of the various event winners towards the end of the day. We hope you have a great time here. For the first webinar of the day, the topic is Women in Engineering, and we have two speakers on board. First off, we have our alumna, Padmaja Ramesh Babu, graduated in the year 2008 from the Department of EC. She is currently the Commercial Operations Manager for the Asia Pacific region at Vestas Wind Technology. We also have with us our alumna Shanti Kamichetty, graduated in the year 2008 from the Department of EC. She is currently the Engineering Manager at VMware. With this brief introduction, I now request the speakers of the session to take over the platform. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, everybody. Are we good to start presenting? Can I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Excellent. I will start off by saying good morning, welcome, vanakkam, ni hao, and thank you very much for making the time and being here today. These are some difficult times, and I really hope that you, your family, and everyone out there is safe. Shanti, do you want to say something before we kickstart?
Yep. So as Soundarya said, I graduated from Tech in 2008, and some of my best memories and best friends were made in this college, and it gives me an immense pleasure to be back here, though it's virtual.
All right. Let's kickstart, and this is going to be, let me start off by saying, who Shanti and I are. We go long way back. We started off as co-passengers on a bus ride to Peck. And today we are really good friends, each other's biggest supporters. And we've seen each other grow from very smart last benchers to accomplished women in our own rights today. The intention of today's seminar and the topic is not to be very specific to a particular gender or any of that sort. Our idea is that each and every one of you here take something away from this session, and we want this to just be a journey that we take you guys on from where we started to where we are today. The opportunities that we got, the hurdles that we faced, and give a sneak peek into our life, our lessons, and give a bit of a commentary on that. And we also want this to be interactive. So in one of the slides, there's a little quiz. So when that does show up, I'll prompt you. And if you guys could participate in it and, provide your feedback, your response in the chat box, we can get back to it at the end of the session. If we, me or Shanti at any point get too preachy, please call us out on it. And I really hope that you guys have a good session here today. I'll hand this over to Shanti to start off the session.
Thanks, Padmaja. So Soundarya, thanks for the intro that you gave. I'll just talk briefly about my journey, career journey mostly. So I joined TCS as a fresher soon after college. So I was a developer working on iOS and macOS projects for Apple as a client. And one thing that shaped my career here was that we were working directly with the Apple developers, which meant that our code was getting reviewed by them. And so it helped create a strong foundation for myself. So after working there for about 3 years, I moved on to a small startup called iDrive Technologies. So I worked there for another 3 years. I was developing a screen sharing product on Apple devices. I enjoyed the startup culture for a while. It was fast paced. I got to work on new technologies. It gave me a rush. And it was during this time that my first life-changing event occurred. I got married to my classmate from college, who was also my colleague at iDrive. And then I needed a change because it was the same face at office and same face at home. So I moved on to VMware as a senior developer. So here I primarily concentrated on their macOS product. And my second life-changing event happened here. I had my first baby. I took a break of 6 months and bounced back. I've been here at VMware for the last 6 years. I'm currently an engineering manager. And in my free time, I love doodling. I even displayed some of my artwork in an exhibition recently. So that's about me. Padmaja, if you can go to the first slide. So I'm here today to share my thoughts on women in engineering and more specifically women in tech. So why is this even a topic? I mean, what's special about women being in tech, and why should we concentrate on women specifically? Is it a special privilege that we are seeking for? So to answer this, I would like to share a memory. I attended Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference twice. So there are about 5,000 people who attend it every year. And the number of women is far less than the number of men who attend it. In fact, during breaks between sessions, there would be huge queues in front of the boys' washrooms, but hardly any in front of the girls' washrooms. While I was happy I didn't have to wait in a queue, but I did really feel bad looking at the really low number of women around me. It might be difficult for you to understand right now because of the stage of life you are in. So let me just try to explain this while drawing reference from my own experiences. So when I was in college, like you guys, in my class, there were almost equal number of girls and boys. And it was the same when I joined TCS. But after 4 to 5 years is when I started seeing the difference in the gender ratio amongst my peers. And now, after 12 years of working, when I walk into a manager's meeting where there are about 30 people, in a room full of men, it's just me and another colleague who are women. So that's like what, 1:15 ratio, which is not that great. I mean, it went from 1:1 to 1:15 in 12 years. And it's not just in the place I work, and this is sadly the case in many organizations. So generally, I see a healthy ratio in new college graduates, which means that every year when freshers join, I see equal number of girls and boys in that batch, but I don't see the same as a number of years of experience grow. So where do all of these girls or women disappear? There could be various factors. It could be marriage, it could be kids, or it could even be taking care of your parents or in-laws. So I have been through these stages and I have survived. And we also have a lot of role models to look up to, like Indra Nui, who was the former CEO of PepsiCo. She was consistently ranked among the world's 100 most powerful women. And we also have Sheryl Sandberg, who's the CEO of Facebook. She's also the first woman to serve on Facebook's board of directors. So hopefully, today I'm able to inspire some of you girls to get into the field, sustain, and have successful careers. And I'm also hoping that some of you boys would turn into allies and support the women in your life as they try to carve a career for themselves. Next slide, please. So, girls, what's in it for you? Why should you work? So from my perspective, I think some of the reasons would be a working woman commands respect from the society. You will be financially independent. This is really important. So you will be in charge of your own expenses, investments. You will have the freedom to spend money on your parents, your siblings, on yourself. And trust me, it's very liberating to do so. It also helps you in creating an identity of your own while satisfying your intellect. It'll definitely boost your self-confidence and self-worth. Your self-esteem definitely increases. And you will also start feeling a lot better about yourself. You will be contributing to the socio-economic growth of the country. You will learn a lot of key life skills like time management, communication, and negotiation, or saying no, and all of that. And you will also enhance your understanding of self, the world, and the people around you. And you will be enabled and empowered to make better decisions in your life. And finally, you will be a role model for your kids. You will have a lot to share on what it takes to be successful. So, lot of times, women, including me, are guilt-tripped into thinking that by continuing a career, you are doing injustice to your kids, and that's a wrong notion. My mom was a working woman. She's been my biggest inspiration. Probably she is the biggest reason why I'm working and I continue to work. And I have never once felt that I would have been better off having her at home. And I'm sure my daughter would be super proud that she has a working mom too. And in fact, there is a study that was done by Harvard Business School that says working women are more likely to raise successful daughters and empathetic sons. Okay, yeah, next slide, please. So, what's in it for organizations? I mean, why should they spend effort on bringing more women into tech? So, first and foremost reason is diversity is good for the company. So, what does diversity mean? It means fair representation of people of different genders, race, sexual orientation, etc. And there's a lot of research that has shown that diverse teams lead to building of better products. And collaborating with diverse individuals also leads to increased innovation. And companies that have more women in leadership end up generating more revenue. So these are all facts. I mean, there is decades of research that backs this up. And secondly, by nature, men and women think differently from each other because of the different life experiences and backgrounds that each of us come from. And hence, there are more chances of bringing in unique ideas to the table. And finally, more women in tech means more role models for the next generation. And the cycle would continue until we reach a healthy gender ratio at workplace. Having said that, women are still underrepresented in the corporate world. Not only that, there is also a pay gap. Women are often passed for promotions. But more and more organizations are now realizing the importance of having a healthy gender ratio at the workplace. And they are actually working towards providing a level playing field for women. Like, for example, a lot of companies now encourage flexible working so that to enable better work-life balance. Now, this works out good for both men and women. It's not just for women. They're also altering their hiring practices. So I can give an example of this from my own experience. So 6 years ago, when I was attending job interviews, there were some questions like about my marriage. There were even questions even before that when I was attending interviews. There were questions on when I'll get married, and once I was married, there were questions on when I'm planning on having kids. Will I be able to balance work and life, and so on. And it felt so normal to me at that time because I was just used to hearing these questions in every interview that I went. Not only that these are highly inappropriate and personal, such questions are never asked to men. But now, the hiring panel and HR teams have specific trainings to avoid asking such questions which are targeted to a particular gender. The other example I would like to give is how my first maternity period was different from my current one. So my first pregnancy was 5 years ago, and I'm expecting my second baby now. And during my first pregnancy, a lot of the support system or preparation was done by myself with significantly less support from my organization. But now I feel much supported from the start. So my manager keeps reassuring me that my upcoming break will not impact my career. He's also helping me to chart out the plan for the team during the time I will be away. So that way, I feel more comfortable this time with the idea of a break. I can keep giving more such examples, but all I can say is I have definitely seen a significant change in how organizations are dealing with the gender gap, and things definitely look bright and better. Next slide, please. Okay, so some words of wisdom. I hope you guys are still with me for the gyan that's going to come up in the slide. So again, these are from my own personal experiences that I've had working for last 12 years. Always be open for options, especially in your early years. try out different things. It'll help you decide what you want to pursue in the long run. And never settle for mediocre. Keep learning, keep updating yourself. Become the go-to person when there is something difficult to be handled, right? And never be in your comfort zone. The moment you start feeling comfortable is when you have to start seeing what needs to change in your life. And take competition head on. Don't shy away from it. Yeah, work-life balance, it becomes the biggest challenge for women at least. But it's not an impossible problem to solve. So take all the help that you need without feeling guilty. Take help of your spouse, your parents, your in-laws, or even daycares, maids, cooks, and whatnot. And personally, for me, this became a challenge when I had my daughter. Having a baby was no doubt joyful and life changing, but yeah, when she was born, I went on a 6 month break. Dropping out of career was not an option that I was keen upon taking, and it took a lot of effort to bounce back at work. When I joined back, I felt lost. I was really unnerved by the changes. It took me some time to get adjusted. It was a challenging period, but it was definitely a refreshing experience for me, and it was all worth it. And I am really glad that I made a choice to continue working. And as I'm about to take my second break in about 2 months, I definitely plan to join back after, say, a 6 month break. And the fifth point I have there is always look out for opportunities. Grab them when something interesting comes your way. Generally, men are better in doing this than women. So it's really important for us to change our attitude. So while you are all in college, try to attend a lot of conferences, make paper presentations. There are also a lot of conferences that are targeted for girls or women. I mean, this is open for both men and women to join. Few examples are like GHCI that happens every year. And I have attended a couple of the GHCI conferences, and I felt really good being in there. There are also many virtual meetups that happen, like organized by women who code. So try to be a part of all this. It's really great to improve your network and visibility, and this will really help you in, as you go up your career ladder. And finally, never settle for lesser pay. Always know the industry standards and ensure you're getting paid fair. So here also, from my own experience, when hike letters are given, I've had men ask for better pays and bonuses, but women don't do so. So that's another thing that needs to change. So yeah, I mean, we need more women willing to take up leadership roles. We need men to take on more responsibilities in the household, and we also need employers who embrace more flexible workspace. Of course, things will be hard. There'll be times you'll be frustrated, you will cry, you will be angry or afraid, but trust me, you will raise above all this. I mean, I did. So why not any of you girls or boys? Thank you. On to you, Padmaja.
Thanks, Shanti. Um, Before we jump into the slides that I've prepared, I just wanted to further reinforce what Shanti was talking about with the help of some statistics from McKinsey. So recently, McKinsey had published an article about women in workplace, and they conducted a survey for 5 years where 600 companies had participated just to understand how women are being integrated. There were two sides of this survey that came out. One was that in the past 5 years, there's been an increased women representation in leadership roles, which is a great news. But the other aspect of it was that the representation of female in workplace across the board was still very low. So it is very important that at the initial stages of the pipeline, the first promotion for a manager, those kind of opportunities be provided to female who display and who are able to. And this broken rung needs to be fixed in order to ensure that the disparity gap is reduced. And to wrap that up, I work for an organization which I'm very proud to say that A is environmentally very conscious because it's in the renewable sector. And B, we have in the executive management and the leadership team in Asia Pacific a very good, strong female representation, starting with my manager and the vice president of service operations, the head of marketing. So all of these are run by very strong, smart female. So before we jump into the next 3 slides that I have for you, here is where the quiz starts. You will be introduced to a few of the movies that I am inspired by, directors and inspirational speakers. So as I go through the slides, if you guys are able to identify it, please go ahead and drop the names on the chat box there. And in the end of the session, we'll come back and we'll review it. This was the interactive bit of the webinar. Where do we all begin? The inception. So where does the idea originate from? So without taking you guys down the rabbit hole of the concept of inception and whatnot, there needs to be something that inspires you. What I have found very helpful in life is to ask what, when, and how. So what is it that I want to do in the next 5 years, and how am I going to get to it? So these 3 questions I have found help you think in a particular manner and develop a plan that would help you reach where you want to reach. And find something that you're very, very passionate about. Because if you are doing something that you're passionate about, in the end of the day, it stops being a job and you persevere to ensure that you fulfill what you started off with. And all these things that I'm going through are applicable across the board. And I will draw some examples of, where I had my inception or where I am today and where did my journey begin. One of the important aspects is the Japanese concept of ikigai, which means finding the purpose of your life. Ikigai is the perfect union or a marriage between what you love, what you're really good at, what is relevant, and what you'll get paid for. So if you're able to find the perfect marriage between all of this, then every day that you get up and go on with life, there is a deep purpose behind your doing. And ikigai is not constant. So as college students today, it might mean something different. But as you progress in your career and in your life, your repertoire of things that you're good at would keep increasing. So you can always have a feedback loop asking, hey, what am I good at now? What do I love doing? What is more relevant to the society today? And what am I in the end of the day going to get paid for? So yeah, always keep asking yourself this 4 questions and find the perfect union. To draw from my story of inception, or where did it start for me? I was very lucky. When I was still doing my undergrad, I attended a 5-day automation training, which was meant for new recruits at Rockwell. So this was a training where we had a miniature setup of a controller, a conveyor belt, small metal devices and sensors. And right before this training, we had a session, a one-on-one electrical engineering session where they taught us uh, step logic and ladder logic. So I was really excited to be trying all of this out and programming it into the controller and seeing actually how it works in real life. What really was stark for me to notice was, A, I was the only undergrad student. That was expected. B, I was the only female in that group. And that inspired me to want to be out there in the field and be a field technician someday in my life. And that's where my journey started. Having said this, I was also in for a very harsh awakening, because I realized once I started working that being a field tech is not a welcomed concept in all regions in the world. We'll get to that a bit later. The act 2 in your life would be the turn. So you have an idea, a seed has been planted. Now is the time that you take something ordinary as an idea and you work on it, you persevere, and you make it into something amazing. Um, and how are you going to be doing this? I have realized that we as human beings really, or also culturally, we don't really ask ourselves, how am I doing? How am I feeling? Because that is very, very important. You need to be nourished spiritually, you need to be physically healthy, and you need to be mentally very happy. And one thing that I've learned through the course of my career and my journey is that surround yourself with people who will empower you, and women in particular. um, we've got to empower each other. We have to have each other's back. You'd be in a workforce tomorrow, and you'd meet some amazing people. Forge those friendships, nourish it, let it grow, because you never know when these people will turn out to be your silent warriors. These women will stand right next to you and fight your battles alongside you. So forge such friendships and cultivate such people around you. And life is too short. So if there is anything that doesn't sit well with you, that doesn't give you the good vibe, just weed it out. We don't need it in our life. Um, you can be asking me, so what is the woman part of it? I'm coming to that right now. So don't be biased. This is in general for everybody. So when you see someone, do not bring your biases into your interactions with them. I know it's easier said than done, but I have come across amazing people, and just because they probably don't speak your language, probably they don't have the accent or their gender or their age, do not be biased, because we don't know the experience that they carry, and just by listening, what you end up learning from them. Um, the female aspect of it is that you might, I have in the past, be subjected to the receiving end of these biases. Just because you're a female, things might be done, you might be treated a bit differently. Um, I can think of two examples out of my experience. Remember how I said I had every intention of being a field service tech on site? I got to live that dream when I moved to the US. And I was working on two different projects in Michigan. And both of them were completely different experiences, because, on one hand, I was on a site where, again, I was the only female tech on site. And the electrician was a 60-year-old man with immense experience. And in all his years of experience, he has never come across a female technician on site. So I was a novelty for him. So he tried to treat me with soft gloves. Like, he'd be around me, breathing down my neck, saying, "Oh, don't climb up the ladder." Or when I'm crawling down to check if a sensor's working or not, he'd be, "Oh, don't do that. I can do it for you." So I had to politely let him down and tell him, "Listen, I've got this, I can take care of it." In contrast to that, I was on another site working on a transmission line, wherein it was cordoned off as sections, and each section had a electrician. He'd do the wiring. My role there was to check that the wiring and the electrical drawings matched before the power was turned on for that section. So the onus of ensuring that everything was right in that section was on me. So I was just checking one such sections, and I came across that the wiring done on site did not match the drawing I had in hand. I had a chat with the electrician, and his immediate response was to be very defensive towards me. And he asked me if I was challenging his work. So I realized that I had to keep my cool. Again, I was the only female field tech on site there. And one of my male colleagues was listening in on this, came in, looked at it, and concurred that there was something not right. And when he said it, things got fixed. The key takeaway here is not to go down into the detail of, that was unjust or unjust and he should have listened to me. Yes, yes, and yes. But that's when you take the high road, and keep in mind that for the greater good of the project, you keep going on, and you hope that that experience has taught the electrician tomorrow to not be biased towards a female when she says, "Hey, can you check if this matches the drawing?" So through your journey, whatever field that you end up decide working with, you might come across experiences, and what is important is how do you react to them and what do you take away from them. So that defines in the end of the day who you are. And trust me, the next day I walked into the site, I was treated differently. So I believe that in the end of the day, no matter if you're a male or a female, if you're able to prove that you bring something to the table, you automatically gain the respect. Having spoken so much about goals and plans and all of this, life always throws curveballs at you. So be there, be present, develop the mindset to be able to play any curveball that life throws at you, because in the end of the day, that's what this journey is all about, right? How do you face what comes your way, and what do you make out of it in the end of the day? Because I have worked in organizations where some of my colleagues were touted to be, the next future leaders and indisposable for the company, and in a few days, a few months down the line, they were made redundant, they were retrenched. So what really defines in the end of the day is how do you take that on and what do you make out of it? Because remember to just keep swimming. Life doesn't stop, so you have to keep going on. Preachy yet? You guys can let me know in the chat. To wrap up with, this is a third act, as I would see it in life. It's the prestige, where you let the magic happen, because you've had a plan, you worked for it, and now is when you reap the benefits of all that you've put in to as an effect. So you really need to believe in yourself, because if you don't, nobody else is going to in life. And as a female, I believe that our instincts are we're a bit more attuned to our instincts. So listen to them. Most of the time, they'll never guide you in the wrong direction. I have never been guided down the wrong path listening to my instincts so far. So please listen to your instincts. If there's a gut feeling, listen to it, ask yourself why, and then proceed. Never, ever, ever in life compromise on your work ethics, because people will come, people will go, jobs will come, jobs will go. But what always stays behind is how you are when you're working. The work ethics that come and become a part of you, that can never be taken away from you. So never compromise on it. If something is wrong, stop and do not do it. Do not be afraid to say no when you're being asked to do something that doesn't comply with your core principles, which is very important. Like I said, relish in the fruits of your labor. Take some time off, enjoy, pat yourself on the back for the good job done, because I think we all need that. Again, have the group of people around you that would celebrate with you. And remember that we are a society. In the end of the day, male, female, it doesn't matter. We all need to uplift each other in life, and then we end up shining as a whole, as a group. Stay hungry and always stay foolish. Listen to people, or listen to inspirational speeches, things that people have experienced in life. You can really draw something out of it. I think with these 3 slides, I hope there are a few responses on the little quiz that I'd put together. To wrap up this section of it with a little nice bow, women in technology or engineering is our topic. However, there are a whole lot of other aspects of the society that that cling on to the patriarchal rules. And in all those facets, women leaders, women in leadership roles, or women in any aspects of that pipeline will have to go through some kind of struggle, and you will or may face criticism in terms of what Jacinda Ardern had said, struck very deeply with me. She said that, one of the criticisms that she has faced is either she's not aggressive enough, she's not assertive enough, and just because she is empathetic towards her people, it means that she comes across as weak. And that is just not done, because we all as a society need to refuse to believe that you cannot be both compassionate and strong. Compassion does not mean weakness. So I'll leave you with this thought, and a little picture of me hanging right in there. To all you girls out there, be a little Manina's locus, be a little crazy in life sometimes, and always have your game face on, and hang in there, because situations might be hard, situations might be challenging, but just hang in there, because life is going to get better. We wrapped up a bit early, so we have enough time to take any questions. I don't know, we can take questions. Najmu, are there any responses on the chat box? Did anybody participate?
Hey, Sandhya, you're on mute.
So we do have two questions as of now. The first one is, how do you maintain work-life balance? Being a woman, you will have your personal life to get on with too, and then you have your professional life too. So how do you strike the balance between these two?
So I'll go first, and then maybe Padmaja can share her experience. Both of us are in different phases in our life. So initially, I mean, I used to struggle to strike a balance, because there was this pressure that I used to feel, that, a pressure of proving myself. The men don't have the same problems that we do with respect to family and everything. But slowly, I start to realize that you can draw a line and say, if suppose, so I'll take an example. Like, we have a lot of evening meetings, which take up a lot of evening time. So initially, I used to try to attend every meeting, or accept every meeting that was scheduled in the evenings. And then I started drawing a line saying, 6 to 8 is my personal time, and I don't want to, like, I want to spend with my husband or kid, and I don't want to take any meetings at that time. So people started respecting it, and sometimes it's just us, like, where we don't draw the line. And the second thing, as I already told before, is you need to take all the support that is around you. You can outsource certain things, like you can outsource household work. You take a maid, take a nanny to take care of your kids, or have someone to help you around with cooking. You might be judged a lot, but trust me, irrespective of what you do in life, you will always be judged. You're married, you're judged. You're not married, you're judged. You have kids, you're judged. You don't have kids, you're judged. So just don't heed to all of that. I mean, just go with whatever works out the best for you, and reach out to seniors who have already done it, right? Like, I have a mentor. So the first time I put my kid in a daycare, I was feeling really bad. Like, every day I go to pick her. The daycare was good, but she just didn't like the idea of going to school in the morning, and then in the afternoon she has to take her school bus and get dropped off at the daycare, and then I would go and pick her up at 5 o'clock. She used to hate the idea, and it used to break my heart every day when I go and pick her. But my husband, he didn't have all of these feelings. It was just me, and that's when I reached out to my mentor, and she had a similar experience, and it somehow just instantly felt better to know that someone who is way experienced than me has gone through exactly the same problems, and she has a perfectly healthy relationship with her kids. So yeah, I mean, any point of your life you feel things are not settling in well between your work and life, always reach out to people who have already done it, so that you will have different ways of solving your problem.
Thank you, ma'am. Padmaja,
Very
ma'am, do you have
quickly,
anything? Yeah.
very
Do you have
quickly
anything to add?
quickly to add to that, I think it's an
Yeah.
effort that you have to make. You have to carve out the time and say, sorry, this is work. This is the time that I take for myself. Sometimes it can even be flexible. If you work long hours, it's still all right to take a longer lunch break, go for a run in the park, go do your Pilates, go do your yoga, go to the gym, do whatever. Take a longer lunch break, but compensate for it later. So have a long day, but allow yourself to take that breath sometimes, because you burn out too soon if you don't realize what you're doing. So I think it holds good even for college students, even for you guys. Take some time out, have something else other than just studying. Not that we did much of studying when we were in college, but okay. So I'm hoping that the generation that's coming up is much better than us. So if you guys are really stressed out and studying a lot, take a break. It's all right.
Okay. I have another question. How do you keep motivated during challenging times or when you feel biased?
I have an extremely good support system around me. I have friends that I've carried. I know that I can ping Shanti at 3 a.m. in the morning, and if she's awake, she'll respond to me. I have a very good support system in terms of family who tell me that it doesn't matter, worst case, put your stuff in storage, come crash at our place. So, and I have friends at work, outside work, who will rally for me. The silent warriors that I've created, not that I have created, they're not my army, but these are people who really want to see you succeed, and they're not your competitors. And surprisingly, all of this circle that I have are of females. I have one such sitting in Singapore today, and I hope she's dialed in because she said she will. And it's a shout out to you, Rebecca, because I'm going to check if you're there in this call later or not. So you make friends like this. Doesn't matter if they're sitting in Singapore, if they're sitting in Bangalore, if they're sitting in Dubai, US, it really doesn't matter in the end of the day, because that support system will keep you going. That's what I do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think I've echo the same feeling. So even just like Padmaja has her support system on, even I have some of my support system listening in. I have my colleague, I have a friend, I have my daughter. I don't think she is able to understand anything, but she's just there because her mom is talking. Yeah, I mean, apart from it, right? Sometimes when you are in a difficult situation, you have to reach out to the right people. Sometimes, like I have been through something that was really difficult at workplace, and there was a time when I used to be silent and just like, okay, whatever, let it pass, or you can just always change the organization. But then I realized that's not a solution, and then I reached out to the right people who could help me solve the problem, like people in the sense like higher up in the leadership who have who would understand the problem that you're going through, and who have the power to change it for you or explain why. Sometimes it might not even be a problem, right? I mean, it could be just something that's going on in your mind. So it's very important to speak up, because that's something that we don't generally do a lot. So it's really important to reach out to the right people in leadership, and even in college, right? If you're going through something difficult, reach out to a lecturer, or your head of the department, or even the principal, right? And they'll be able to help you out. So yeah, that's one piece of advice.
Okay. The next one is like, will you talk about your leadership style, shared leadership? Do you see this as being a leadership style that requires more emotional intelligence?
I missed the first half of the question. Could you please repeat it, Soundarya?
Yeah, sure. Will you talk about your leadership style? In that case, like a shared leadership. And do you see this as being a leadership style that requires more emotional intelligence?
I don't think I understood the question correctly, but you're talking about shared leadership
Shared
somehow.
leadership, and yeah, shared leadership, and does it require more emotional intelligence?
Is that a new jargon that I've missed? Shared leadership? I have never come across it. But if you're talking about me sharing a teams, having dotted lines, and being a manager like that, in general, I think in any way that you can motivate somebody that you work with, you are being a leader. You don't need them to directly be reporting into you, or it doesn't have to be, I'm your manager, you can come talk to me. I think if you show up, do a great job, and are there and can motivate people, you can be a leader in your own effect. So apologies, I didn't understand the question properly, so I gave you a very generic answer. Shanti, can you do better than me?
No, I think even I'm hearing the word for the first time. So maybe So just by going with the literal meaning of it, I think what it means is maybe sharing responsibilities across different people in the team. Yeah, I mean, it's a different thing, right? I mean, being a leader, there's a lot of expectation out of you, and it's no longer traditionally, the manager or the managee relationship anymore. I mean, when I joined 12 years ago, I used to be really scared of my manager, and now it's not like that. I have a very friendly relationship with my manager, and in fact, for a brief period, I had a senior director who was managing me, and it was so easy to talk to him, and that's what I want to become too. I mean, I want to be someone who my teammates can reach out to me. And the biggest advantage that I have is I have organically grown in the same team. So I was a part of the team developing, and then I got promoted to a manager of the same team. So the team kind of trusts me and is really friendly with me. And I really love that style of leadership where people, respect you enough and trust you enough to lead them, and at the same time are comfortable enough, like as maybe as a friend, or even a very good colleague whom they can uh, depend upon and share if they're going through anything difficult.
Thank you. And is there some memorable incident in your workplace which triggered a spark in you or motivated you?
Yeah, I guess there are many. It's very difficult to choose one, and something. Yeah, okay. Not exactly memorable, I would say, but it was a defining moment for me. So there was this 6 month training that very few people got nominated to, and I was one of them. And initially, I was really confident. The 6 months I can do it, and it was it needed a lot of commitment. But exactly during the same 6 months, the regular project that I was doing also. There was a lot of stress and work going on. So unfortunately, I couldn't concentrate much on the other 6 month training. And at the end of it, I felt really bad. I mean, I was one of the people who didn't, I think, who contributed very less to the training. I was really ashamed of myself, and because very few people got nominated across VMware, and I didn't really utilize it, and it kind of so my confidence level took a hit. So this happened last year, not long ago. So that's when, I mean, my mentor, like, I reached out to her, and then she's like, don't worry, these things happen, and every it happens for everybody. And she helped me deal with it because I was guilty for a long time. It did affect the way I was working. She helped me deal with it, and the why it is memorable is because a defining moment for me. I changed a perspective. So things can go wrong sometimes. You can't keep beating yourself up, because if there are 10 things that you have done good, there is going to be one or two things that have really gone bad. Yeah. So, Padmaja, you have anything to share?
I'll leave it at that high note, Shanti.
Uh, there's one question. How do you think, how can men be more understanding whenever a woman is choosing a career? Like, she knows that it's right for her and she knows that she got to do it, but how do you think men can be more understanding in a woman's choice?
That's a very interesting question, and I think Shanti would have a whole lot more insight into it. But if you just look at a choice, as in it, then I feel there shouldn't be a disparity between what a woman or a man chooses. It's about two individuals choosing how to go about in their life. Just because you're their partner, just because you are their husband, I feel it shouldn't give you the kind of authority to influence and redirect it somehow. Influence, yes, probably by giving insights into, hey, think about this, or probably do it this way. It might be helpful for you. But to impinge on their careers and put a stop to it, I've had really great role models in life in that effect. where, when I chose to leave Dubai, my dad was like, yeah, great, do it. When I decided to leave the US, they were like, yeah, great, do it. So and then I said, I'm moving to Australia. They said, yeah, great, do it. So unfortunately, I won't be able to add insights in terms of a very practical one, but this is coming from me as someone. I don't believe that anybody should impinge anybody from doing something in their life. But Shanti, insights, please.
Yeah, so men, have different women in different relationships in their lives, right? I mean, you could be friends, you have friends who are women, you have your spouse, you have your sisters, or just someone who's looking up to you in your workplace, right? And so the one thing I would say is always try to be supportive. So to your spouse, what the best you could do is pitch in the household things, pitch in child care, take care of your kid, because it's your both of your kids, right? It's not just the mother's responsibility anymore. And if you are someone in a workplace, mentor to someone, then let her know, what is the best that she can do at workplace. And yeah, I mean, there's so many ways in which men can support. So the biggest thing they can do is be an ally to women. Understand right now that they need a slight push. I mean, it's not I mean, it's definitely not a level playing field out there. So the best thing they can do right now is understand that and accept that, and that itself would be a great help, if you ask me.
Okay, thank you. Uh, what I mean, the next question would be, uh, what do you think is the current situation for women in the industry?
So from my own experience, right, definitely things are getting better. The percentages are getting better. I don't know, 2-3 years ago when I checked the percentage of women in tech specifically, it was around 20%, and today it is 30%. And as I said, right, organizations are realizing more and more like how important it is to have more women in the workplace, not just at the entry level, but also in the leadership levels, right? So at this point, I would say things are much more promising than what it was before. Simple things like hiring process itself is changing. I mean, in a very subtle way that maybe we'll not even be able to realize, but would end up creating more diversity at workplace. Things like, you need to have a diverse hiring panel. I mean, no one is going to say that this is a reservation. No one is going to say 50% should be women and 50% should be men. That's never going to happen, and that's not healthy also, if you ask me. But just by having, a diverse hiring panel, you're ensuring that you're getting in more diverse candidates, and definitely not on reservation. It's all going to be for people who really deserve it, right? If a man deserves it more than women, then obviously the man is going to get it. But sometimes what happens is when there are two equally performing people, right, a man and a woman, if there is a diverse panel, there might be a chance that the woman gets the post over man. I mean, when you compare to a non-diverse hiring panel. So things like that are changing, and also support wise, small things like in my organization they added a mother's room. Maybe in a year there are 1 or 2 pregnant women who are joining back from their break, and that mother's room really makes a difference to them. I mean, it's just a room, but things like that, or a sick room, where sometimes you're just off for an hour or something. You don't really have to go home. You can just take rest. So these subtle things actually help us a lot. And one more other thing that I mean, the organization did for me was a reserved parking area when I got pregnant. Because the regular parking area is 4 floors up, and it's a long walk, and I wasn't keeping in good health, so I just reached out and they gave me a parking that was at the lower basement, very close to the to the lift. So things like this do matter. So I'd say this is really a good time for women, and that's why it's very important for us to get into the field. I mean, if you see, right, maybe 10 years ago, it took a lot to just get your foot inside. And maybe in our generation we are doing slightly better, and in your generation it should definitely be 50%.
That's good to hear.
For a different perspective of this, when it comes to women on site, when you work on the field, when I was there 5-6 years ago, there weren't many women on the field working. That will take a bit of time to change. However, I've noticed that since moving here, I go to a wind farm. I see a lot of women out there on the field, and it's very empowering to see that there is a change, and you just don't have to be on the field. You could be a grid design engineer. We have two female leading the grid design team, so you could be in a different aspect of the technical side as well. So don't stop exploring, or don't stop knocking at the different opportunities that you can try and get. So yeah, it is a good time to be out there.
Great. So I think we have one last question. How do you deal with casual sexism at workplace? And because this, I think this would be a good question to ask.
Casual, sorry, what? I missed that. Is her screen frozen?
Can
Yeah.
you hear me now?
Yes.
So how do you deal with casual sexism at workplace? Because this seems to be a very prevalent situation, and so we thought like it would be good to hear from you.
I did give an example of a place. It happens, and then you take the high road. When it gets a bit too much, then you speak to the right channels. There are the HR teams in most of the organization today take these kind of complaints very seriously. Do not brush them off, because it's not okay. It's not okay for anybody to casually discriminate you in any way. So speak up. Try speaking up for yourself. Put a stop to it. One thing that I have noticed is that I don't know if it's an Asian thing or what, but we generally tend to smile and nod, and that needs to stop, because when you smile and nod, it becomes a sense of acknowledgement to them to continue joking. I say play dumb. Ask them to explain it to you. Don't acknowledge that, yes, oh, I get it, haha, you're being funny. No, stop and ask them, so what do you mean by what you just said? Because the moment you stop and ask them to explain what they're saying, it puts them in a spot to, it's no longer casual. Then you've got to put words to it. So I feel like you and we as women need to stand up and stop acknowledging it with a smile and a nod.
Do you have anything to add to Shanti,
Well,
ma'am?
I think she covered perfectly well. I mean, just re-emphasizing. I mean, never put up with it, right? Just don't smile and nod, as Padmaja said, and speak up. And yeah, I mean, these things are definitely taken up very seriously in the workplace. So if you do a formal complaint or something, then it's taken up. So yeah.
Just a quick
Okay.
question. Did anybody respond to the quiz, or was it something that people completely grossly ignored? I'm going to feel really bad, Shanti. I put so much thought into it.
I I don't have the window open, so I can just check 1 second.
Yeah, sure, no problem. And whilst you're doing that, I actually wanted to say that you guys have done an amazing job of comparing this, Soundarya, and the
Thank
rest of the
you.
team to putting this together, because I know it's not very easy to do an online webinar, getting all the infrastructure in place. A special shout out to Najmu Seher, because he very patiently responded to all my WhatsApp messages, and I promise you, I have never engaged in ragging when I was in college. But at one point, I was telling Shanti.
What type of
Sorry,
method?
no, don't try.
No,
If it No, but thank you very much, Najmu. You were really a champ through the process. And Shanti Salmon, ma'am, I don't know if Shanti and I have thanked you enough, but being a part of the literary club was a big reprieve for us in those 4 years. So thank you very much for taking us under your wing, and always being so kind, so gentle with the people that speak with you. It's very difficult. I mean, I've never seen you get cross with anybody. And then also thank you for introducing me to John Denver and country music. Anytime I listen to any song, I think of you.
Uh, I think it's time for us to wrap this up too. So that is one enlightening session. I would like to thank you both for sharing your own experiences, being women, excelling in their own ways in the corporate world. And it was also good to hear from you about striking the balance between men and women and how women should never settle for anything less than the best. So you will also be pleased to know that the male female ratio of PEC
You're frozen again, Sandhya. But thank you guys for this amazing session. And good luck for the rest of it, and good job on what you've done so far.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.